That's a really good question. I am thinking a lot about my next evolution and what I'm going to be doing with my life with climate change and COVID-19 and Black Lives Matter and Me Too movement. There's so many things, and I'm trying to figure out how I can be supportive in all those areas. But I know that you have me on here because I'm a design collector. And so, in regard to that, I always say that I am a fool for beauty. There was a beautiful song that the jazz singer Sarah Vaughan made famous in the 80s. It is called You Are Too Beautiful. And it goes like this. Forgive me. You are too beautiful for one man alone, and I and I am a fool for beauty. And that line, fool for beauty, is just, to me, it just makes so much sense. And it sort of sums up my whole collecting. And I really think in the contemporary art and contemporary design world right now that beauty is something that's really underrated. And and I but I disregard that. That's that what speaks to me. And I'm on the board of the Edible Schoolyard Project. Maybe your East Coast viewers know what that is. It was founded by the very famous chef and one of my heroes, Alice Waters. And she always says that beauty is a language of care. And I think that that is one of the most profound things that I have ever heard. And I think that when you create beauty in your own home, whether it or your own office, or I don't know, I mean, I remember those VW bugs in the 90s that had the flower vases. When you create something beautiful as small as that, it kind of creates, it makes your life beautiful. And so, yeah, I'm a fool for beauty. I am home in Los Angeles. I live in a Craig Ellwood house that was built in 1953, and I restored it about 7 years ago. I've been in the house for 10 years. I restored it about 7 years ago, and it is my pride and joy. And I was in a fire last fall, as you know, and so I had to restore it again, and I just moved back in about 3 or 4 weeks before shelter in place began. So I moved back into this like brand new house, and I couldn't be more grateful. I think we're all so busy these days. I mean, these Zoom calls take so much time. So I've been spending a lot of time with that. I um, was really knocked out by the fire that I just mentioned, and I started working with a healer named Kenneth Alexander who does sound meditation. And I had such an amazing experience with him that I began sponsoring him to do YouTube live sessions. And so we've been doing those. We've done a couple dozen by now, and we've had 400 and 500 people at the sessions from all over the world. So I've spent a lot of time organizing those, and then I built a swimming pool over the last 2 or 3 years, and so I've been spending a lot of time in my pool. I just got underwater headphones, and I go down there at night, and I sit on the bottom. I mean, I come up for air, but I mean, who wouldn't? But I go down there and I listen to like Eric Satie or Prince piano and microphone, and I'm just like trying to, shut it all out and find some peace. And of course, I'm dancing all the time. And and I've been trying to get through this. I I am taking a deep dive. So that's been a really a great joy. And yeah, and then I just have a lot of I'm cataloging my collection. That's a big project. I would say that I did. I hadn't been living in the house for 4 months when I moved back in, and I lost some things. They got broken in the fire and the move, and I just really, and then with the COVID-19, I'm like, I really need to simplify my life. And so I started getting rid of the um, objects and art that didn't just really speak to me. You know, sometimes I buy things because I love them, and then sometimes I buy things because they fit in my collection. And it's usually those things that I bought like strategically, like they fit in my collection, that I get rid of. I got rid of, you know, and then just being in my house. You know, I'm really a minimalist, but if you're a collector, then you end up, you know, having things, more things than you want. So yeah, just been sort of distilling it down to the things that I really, really enjoy. And then I took a lot of, because I had to redo the interior of the house, I painted out like all the red bricks, and I love monochrome. I mean, that's not obvious from behind me, but if the walls in my house aren't glass, they're redwood or red brick. So I painted out all the red brick to white. So it's still, you can still see what Craig Ellwood intended, but in houses later than my house was done in 1953. In his other houses, always the bricks are painted white. So I didn't feel so sacrilegious doing that. And it looks really amazing, I have to say. I'm really having fun with that. But I mean, I like to rearrange things all the time anyway. That's just how I do it. I wouldn't call it functional design, but it is a ceramic sculpture by Marta. And I was at Miami Basel in Switzerland, and I walked into the preview, and 10 minutes later, I found myself in Megan booth, and there was this amazing piece sitting on a low table, and I just got down next to it, and I looked up at Oog, and I was like, what is this? And he said, oh, well, that's marzipan. And that meant nothing to me, and it still doesn't. But the piece was so fantastic, and I just said, what? How much is this? And he gave me some crazy price, and I said, I'll take it. And so it is absolutely my favorite piece in this collection. And you know, I mean, I've never investigated who Marta Pan is. I don't care. The piece is amazing. You don't need to know what things are. You just need to know that they're good. It's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like people. Like, you don't need to read the fine print. You don't need to know, you know, what their favorite Prince song is, or you know, where they like to vacation, or where they went to school. Like, you just need to know, like, oh, this is a kindred spirit. And that's how I feel a lot of times when I see a piece of art or design or furniture. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, kindred spirit. Well, this is going to sound kind of crazy because I mean, most people think I'm, you know, animated, and I think I'm pretty open. But a lot of times I've been described as mysterious. And so if you believe that, then the piece, I think, is relatively mysterious. It also, but to me, what speaks to me is it has like a quietness. It just exudes solitude and a kind of somberness, which is really, I mean, for people who know me, I might be funny and animated and all that, but I am also a very cerebral, uh, quiet person who likes to spend a lot of time in meditation or reading or thinking. And so I think, you know, it's similar to me in that. What I really love about it is it's surreal, and it feels ancient, and in that regard, it's sort of sad. And I take quite a bit of pleasure in um, melancholy. And I think the piece kind of makes me feel moved and sad, and that's beautiful. It's also, it comes apart, and it's sort of yin and yang idea. And I think, you know, I'm you know, on the one hand I'm very animated, energetic. On the other hand, I'm very quiet and hopefully serene. The thing that was at the top of my wish list, was a César compression pendant, which I was really unhappy to learn Celine is copying now. But I got one finally, and so that just arrived last week from Paris. And but as far as like design, I'm really trying to cut back on my collecting. But I've always wanted a kangaroo chair. I mean, right now I'm sitting on the floor because this is like my most comfortable way to sit all the time. But I like chairs that are low slung, and I've actually never sat in one of those. I'm dying to try them out because I think they're beautiful for one thing, but they just look like they would fit my body, and I like being low, and they're beautiful. So yeah, that would be the top of my wish list for design. If it was art, I would say an Alicia Penalba or a Noah Davis painting. I always have a lot of projects going on, and I'm not sure really the projects that I was working on in the fall, given what is happening now, feel very unimportant. I was had been asked to curate a jewelry show. I collect jewelry from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and that just doesn't feel really important to me right now. And I had gone to New York in the fall to kind of create headspace for myself, to work on. I have a nutrition background, and I was going to be working on a project, and I wasn't sure whether it was going to be a podcast or a book or just an Instagram series of for women in their 40s and 50s, which is my age range, if that wasn't obvious. And so I'm still thinking about that because I still think that that has some value. I'm going to get Joe Biden elected. I'm going to work on that. That's a big priority. And just figuring out how to become truly fearless, because these are trying times. The thing that keeps popping into my head is all the time is, well, I mean, okay, I normally when people ask me questions like that, I just give this, pat answer, like, stay curious, I always say that the best part of my childhood was having a father who really instilled that in me, to be curious, and it certainly enhanced my life. But I don't think being curious is enough anymore, for me anyway. And you also have to bring to it like a sense of awe and wonder. It's like a layer of the divine on top of that. So like while we're watching these amazing protests, we're seeing the massive evolution that is being forced upon us right now. I mean, if you can see that, and this is what I'm trying to do, like to see it with some like awe and wonder instead of like fear and freak out. I find that expansiveness, that awe inspires. I find that really helpful. So awe and wonder, that's what I would say.